Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm
I
ready.
am ready. Okay.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome to God damn it.
All right.
We're going to have to
Maintain.
do an outtake show sometime.
Uh-huh.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. I'm Kristi Brower here with my co-host, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hello.
We're so excited to be here with you today. We have a really fun show for you. But before we get started, much to the chagrin of a couple of people on YouTube, but we do what we do. We like to
We do
have a
what we
check-in.
want.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
So, Katie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm looking at myself. When we make these videos, you look at yourself the whole time.
It's so
And
weird.
so it's so weird. You have to really get used to it. But I'm a little surprised by those circles under my eyes. But I'll be honest, this whole Daybell case this week has had me deep underwater. So
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And we'll do an update on that, real soon. So you guys will know more about what's happening. But,
Mhm.
In essence, they did find the children's bodies this week and they have positively identified them today. So
Yes.
anyway, I have not slept a lot. I can tell by looking at my face.
I know. It's
But,
been a weird, weird week. It's a weird energy.
mhm.
Um,
And
I
we, of
hear
course,
you.
we've called out to our healer friends that are local to meet us tonight. We're meeting in a local campground to
Mhm.
do a sacred fire and a drum circle and a healing circle to help heal the trauma around here. You guys have no clue how, or maybe you do, but the people around here are extremely stirred up and upset.
Yeah. Oh.
My kids, Mars has been having nightmares. Her friends have been having nightmares. They're really, really shaken up by this. Of course they are. We all are,
Parents murdering children. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
horrifying experience, and to have it happen in your own backyard. Yeah. Super scary
Yeah.
and sad.
Yeah, it sure is. And so we're going to do what we do, and join our healer friends together. And then there is a candlelight vigil at the memorial that we set up earlier this week. So we'll attend that
Yeah.
as well. So good things happening today for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Lots
been
of
quite
good
a time,
things. It
really.
has. It's been quite a week.
Hmm.
I agree. Just energy wise, it has been quite a week. I really am trying to focus on positivity and creativity. And so I'm going to show you my new pursuit. This is my ukulele.
That's so fun. I love it.
I am going to learn to play. Now, I am a musician. I played the clarinet all the way through college. I'm a singer. I love music.
Yeah.
I've never played a string instrument. I know I can't play bigger ones. I am really small. My hands are tiny. I have rheumatoid arthritis. However, I have always thought I should learn to play the ukulele because I think I
Yeah.
can manage it. I think physically I can manage it. And
Mhm.
so today I bought my very own ukulele. I'm really excited about it.
So fun.
I feel like the world is in a really weird place and I need to focus on some creativity for myself in order to keep my energy up. And so that's what I'm doing.
I think that's a good tip for everybody, really.
Yeah, I think it's important. And I
Keep
just
your
feel
hands
like,
busy, do things that make you feel good. Yeah.
yeah, do something, jump into something that makes you feel good. And this has been
Yeah.
something that's been on the back burner in my head for a really long time. And I finally went, you know what? I'm doing it. So
Yeah.
I'm super
Yeah.
excited. So who knows? Maybe I'll play us a song on the show sometime.
Well, I
It's
will hold
probably
you
going to
to
be a
that.
really long time before I'm good enough to do that. But
Hey,
I
if
will
it's
make
Mary
it a
had a
goal.
little lamb, we will tolerate
Right? I'll probably have "Don't Worry, Be Happy" or something like that down pretty soon.
that. Well, I can't wait. That is dang fun. So,
Yeah,
well,
it's
good for
really
you.
fun. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about that.
Mhm.
Well, today's show is a celebrity death roulette. You have heard us do this before.
Mhm.
So Katie's going to give us some cold reads. I'm going to tell some stories about some famous people who have died under mysterious circumstances, who have, their deaths are unsolved. And
Mhm.
so we're going to do a psychic read, a cold read. Katie has not seen this list. She doesn't
Nope.
know who I'm going to hit her with. She's probably going to punch me
Nope.
after this show because I'm hitting her with some pretty big cases. But I think it will be really interesting and fun. We've done this before, and I'm sure we'll do it
Mhm.
again. Just kind of an
I like
interesting
it.
way
I'm
to
in the
just a
zone.
real fast, like quick cold read on
Rapid
what's the truth
fire.
of
Yep.
this situation.
Mhm.
So
Which I think are some of the best work, honestly, because you
they
don't have a
are.
chance to second guess it. You just whatever's
No.
coming up for you is what you're going to throw out there.
Boom, right out your head. Yeah.
I
I'm
like it.
excited about it. Okay. So let's get started with celebrity
Okay.
death roulette with Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur is a
Okay.
rapper. is a rapper who died in Las Vegas. I'm sure
Mhm,
everyone knows, very famous.
mhm,
He was killed in a drive-by shooting.
mhm,
His death was thought to be gang related as he was a member of the Crips. And
mhm.
oh no, I'm sorry. His I can't read my own notes. A member of the Crips gang had been seen near him the night of the shooting. So it was thought to
Ooh,
be a gang related death.
yeah, be careful.
Although
Careful on that,
um
calling in one of the Crips.
yes, I did not mean that. I
Yeah.
apologize
You'll
anyone,
be going down next. Okay.
right.
No, you won't.
No, just misread my notes. Okay. So, there was never sufficient evidence found. No one was ever arrested, and his case is still unsolved. So, Katie, what do you think? What happened to Tupac Shakur?
We have actually been to the place where Tupac was shot.
Yes, we have.
We took a ghost tour in Las Vegas. We went to the scariest
Mhm.
casino I have ever been in,
Oh
way
my
off the
gosh.
strip.
Yes.
And I think we paid like 35 bucks a piece and we got on this really seedy van and they
Mhm.
took us on quite the tour. It was actually really fun,
It was.
but they took us to this spot and talked about this case. I remember this street corner
Mhm.
well. And at the time, kind of puzzling over that. I think that it's correct. I have always thought that. A lot of people have tried to kind of pull the Elvis thing, that Tupac's really alive and, all of that nonsense.
Mhm.
He's not. And I do feel like it was a member
Or
of
that
the
he
Crips
was
that
killed
shot him.
by a rival rapper. There were some stories around
Right.
that.
Well, right, because that was around the time that Biggie died and, I don't know,
Biggie died
uh,
after him, and we'll
after
get
him.
don't
Yeah.
jump ahead of me.
Oh. Oh. Yeah, got Biggie on the brain. Okay.
Ooh,
Well, I actually do feel like it was a gang shooting. I do.
okay.
I also don't think that they knew who he was.
Ah,
I don't feel like Tupac was shot because he was Tupac. I feel like he was shot because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
wow.
And there's been a lot of stuff, a lot of speculation. This is a famous death, a very famous death.
Very
But I don't think it was any of those things other than he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I wonder if there were actually, if he got hit by a drive-by that wasn't intended for him. But I still don't believe that he was killed because he's Tupac. That's not what I'm hearing at all. He just was in the wrong place at the wrong time and was shot.
wow.
It's
Okay.
really sad.
It is
If you
really
read very much about him, he was like a visionary. He was a
he
pretty
was.
interesting guy.
He was. It
Yeah.
was a huge loss. It was a huge
Mhm.
loss.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I think it may make some people feel better to know that he wasn't killed because of who he was, and maybe it's worse, that
Yeah.
just random violence is awful.
Mhm.
Okay, well, thank you. Next, we have Jill Dando. So Jill Dando was a British journalist.
We did do Jill Dando.
Oh, darn, never mind. We're not doing Jill Dando.
We're trying not to duplicate, and we weren't sure, but I know we did Jill Dando.
Yeah, we need to make a list. Okay, Peter Ivers. Peter
Okay.
Ivers. Peter Ivers was a famous musician and he was host of the New Wave Theater
Hmm.
and he was found bludgeoned to death in his apartment in 1983. So after he died, lots of friends went to his apartment to mourn him and they tampered the evidence in his apartment. So before any
Oh.
evidence could be collected, lots of people were there. So the case is officially still under investigation, but has never been solved.
Mhm.
So who bludgeoned Peter Ivers?
Who bludgeoned Peter Ivers? Peter Ivers was robbed. And I feel like
Okay.
they may not know that the the evidence was tampered, because his apartment got messed with. That's really unfortunate. How selfish can
Yeah.
maybe they just didn't know, but
I think at the it was in the 80s, early
Mhm.
80s, certainly before CSI aired, so it's
Right.
very possible that they didn't know that what they were
Mhm.
doing would make it impossible to solve his murder, but that is certainly what
Mhm.
happened.
I feel like this was a robbery gone bad, that, whoever was in his place didn't expect for him to be there, but I will say this, it wasn't a random robbery. I do feel like they were looking for something specific. What I see taken is paperwork. I
Okay.
feel like there was something that he was working on that, yeah,
That
that that
someone wanted.
that someone wanted. Yeah, so it wasn't a random robbery, but it was a robbery. It was not supposed to be a death, though. It was supposed to just be you know, get in and get the thing you need and get out, but he happened to be
Mhm.
home and they didn't anticipate that. I feel like he fought back and this is what happened. It's really unfortunate, really,
It
really
is. That's
unfortunate.
very sad.
And
Very
very unfortunate, of course, that you know, that the apartment was tampered with. So
Do you think it will ever
it's
be
hard
solved?
to
Do you think they'll
no,
ever
no, No, this was more of a, this was a crime for hire, and I feel like the person who did it just slipped away. There's just it won't be solved. No,
Wow. Okay.
it's
Okay.
really sad.
It is. It is very sad. Thank you
Mhm.
for that. Okay, next we have Bruce Lee.
Oh.
Yeah. So Bruce Lee, of course, famous martial arts master.
Mhm.
He died on July 20th, 1973. He failed to show up for dinner. After his body was discovered, it was ruled that he died of a brain edema due to a muscle relaxant he'd been given. And so it was initially ruled as a natural death, that it was caused by the medication. But some people have really questioned whether or not he was murdered. His son was killed on the set of the movie The Crow 20 years later.
Oh,
And it was even rumored that the family was cursed. So, what do you think
wow.
about Bruce Lee's death?
I don't think Bruce Lee's death was a murder. I feel like it was a true accident. That feels like a lot of drama to me, wanting it
Mhm.
to be something that it wasn't. I feel like Bruce Lee's body was so beat up. And he was in, he I'm assuming was still in, supposed to be in great shape, and was, doing all of the martial arts and the things that he was doing. I think that he hid his pain quite well and the debilitating injuries that his body had quite well because that was his career, you
Right,
know. But
right.
I feel like he was on quite a bit of medication for his body and for his pain and that he ended up I don't feel like I feel like he had taken this dose of muscle relaxers before and been okay. I feel
Mhm,
like he had kind of thought he had built up kind of a resistance to them, and he was taking more than he
mhm.
was supposed to, and he'd done it before, and it was okay, and it just helped him, and it was alright.
Yeah,
But this time, sometimes people with drugs, they think they're okay, but they hit a max capacity that,
mhm.
you
Something
know
builds up over time.
yeah, and he believed that he was invincible.
Wow.
This was a man who believed he was invincible, he believed that his body was, made of steel, and, well, it wasn't, but yeah, it was an accidental death, I don't feel like there's more to it than that. Very unfortunate about his son, though.
Yeah, very much so, but yeah, I agree with you, I don't feel they're connected at all, their
No.
deaths. No.
No.
Okay, well, maybe I hope that that brings some peace for people about Bruce Lee, that
Yeah.
no one did kill him. I always think that it's better to know that someone died naturally than to be murdered,
Yeah, for sure.
personally. I mean,
Yeah.
it's never a good thing, but, at least you
Mhm.
know that it wasn't an intentional thing.
Well, and because this was a drug he took himself, it wasn't a suicide.
Yeah,
It wasn't a suicide. This was
true.
accidental, and again, I feel like he'd taken that dose before when he needed it and was fine and just didn't know this was gonna happen.
Yeah,
Sucks.
very obviously.
It
Yeah, it
sucks, yeah.
does. Okay, thank you for that. All right, next up is David Carradine. So, David Carradine, of course, a very famous actor. At age 72, he was found dead in a hotel room in Thailand. He was there shooting a film. Carradine was found naked, hanging by a rope, and evidence suggested his
Mm.
death was the cause of autoerotic asphyxiation gone wrong.
Hmm.
Apparently, his ex-wives did confirm that autoerotic asphyxiation was something that he was into.
Mhm.
But some people, including his ex-wives, claim that his death was actually staged and it was an assassination.
Assassination.
Yeah.
Wow. Hmm. I don't have an immediate hit on this case.
Okay.
So I gotta dig a little bit deeper. Here's why it feels nefarious. The people that were involved in this were on his set. These were
Mhm.
other people that were not necessarily actors or actresses, but people on his set, maybe some of both. Like, I feel like this was kind of a big group of people. There was a lot of weird sex stuff going on.
Okay.
Um, I feel like multiple people knew what happened, and everybody just shut the hell up to protect their own careers and stay out of trouble. I do think it was exactly what it looks like. I,
Okay.
but I think the reason it feels off to people and the reason it felt off to me at first is that the people involved are right in front of us. The people involved are people that he was working with,
Okay.
and none of them were willing to say anything. I think they had a pretty good pact that we're not going to tell anybody, and they didn't, and they got away with it. And that's what I think is probably the worst part,
Yeah.
But it really was autoerotic asphyxiation. I feel like there's no smoking gun there. It is what it is. But again, yeah, the players involved were right there. They just refused to say anything.
Okay. Wow. It's too bad. When someone dies, you'd think it's time to speak up.
Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing is that their theory basically was that he's dead anyway. What good does it do to destroy our careers in the process?
Well, I think CYA comes into play in situations like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, next is Thelma Todd.
Oh, okay.
So Thelma Todd was an actress a long time ago in
Mhm.
black and white films. She was discovered in her garage behind the steering wheel of her car. She died of carbon monoxide poisoning. So it was believed that she either committed suicide or accidentally killed herself while warming up her car. The problem with that was that there were blood spots in the car and her nose was broken.
Mhm.
And so some people believe that she was murdered, although nothing was ever proven, no arrests were ever made.
She was murdered. Yeah. She was murdered. This was, I don't want to say a jilted lover because I don't think this person was ever a lover. I feel like this is more of like a stalker kind of situation. Somebody who had watched her for quite a while, knew where she lived, kept a close eye on her, and at some point decided that, they were never going to be together, and they are the ones that killed her. This was a stalker of sorts.
Wow, that's really
I
sad.
just feel like there's not, if someone has a stalker now, there's an electronic signature to that, in
Right,
various ways that we'd know more about it. In her day, there wasn't,
right.
and it was much easier to move freely around and be creepy. I feel like this person kept a close eye on her house. But I
Mhm,
also feel like she may have made a police report or two about having somebody creepy around her, but I don't know that they ever really knew who that person was. But
mhm.
yeah, no, this was it feels more like a, you know, I don't know. It's not like a fit of rage, not quite that. I feel like they broke her nose on accident trying to get her into the car. Not necessarily on purpose. I feel like she did fight back, but at any rate, yeah, it's not. It is a murder for certain. I feel like that person, obviously were never caught, and I don't feel like I don't feel like they're living any longer. This was just one of those that they will just never know.
Mhm.
I I think it's really unfortunate that this wasn't. I don't feel like the law enforcement involved in this did a great job with it,
Yeah.
which is so crazy because it's a high profile case.
Mhm.
Now, if something like that happened, it would be treated a lot differently.
It would.
Then it was really easy to kind of be like, yeah, well, maybe she
Mm.
maybe she just wanted to die. I mean, it feels like they treated it in a really dismissive way and didn't give this case the energy it deserved at all.
Yeah,
Really
that
sad.
was my impression as well. Yeah,
Hmm.
very sad. Thank you. Okay, up next, Jimi Hendrix.
Oh,
So Jimi Hendrix, very famous musician.
yeah.
An autopsy revealed that he choked to death on his own vomit while under the influence. It also revealed that wine and barbiturates had filled his lungs and stomach. Some speculated that the wine found in him had been forced down his throat. Although his death was ruled accidental, the details around it are still pretty questionable, and there are a lot of people who do not accept that this was an accidental death.
Okay. He put all that wine down his throat,
Okay.
and he put the barbiturates into his system. It was an accidental death.
Okay.
There were other people that he was like partying really heavy with.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm seeing is that there was like, I don't know. I hate that this sounds so blasé, but kind of like a drinking challenge,
Mm.
that he drank an enormous amount of wine when he could hardly stand. He was so inebriated to prove something. and aspirated most of it into his lungs. He, from his stomach, he did it. He did it. But again, some really, really heavy partying going on, some bad decisions on his part and on other people's part. But I don't feel like it was, I don't think anyone did this to him. What he's showing me is he did it to himself. He drank an enormous amount of wine that night, really fast. And when he was already just, totally shit faced. So, no, just bad decisions, really bad decisions.
That's very sad. Although I'm glad to know no one killed him.
Yeah. I actually feel like he was really loved.
He was very well loved.
He was really loved, and his friends loved him.
Still a very loved person.
Well, I feel like his friends really loved him and would have done anything for him. They just, as happens sometimes when people end up with a lot of money, sometimes, and a lot of fame. And I'll say this, I've had a theory for a long time that people who end up in the limelight end up with millions of people attached to their energy.
Yes.
We all have people attached to our energy to some degree, but you think about a famous person who some people love them, some people hate them. It doesn't matter. They're still attached to them in some way if they have a strong emotion towards them. I usually see it all right across the high heart right here, like all of these little threads or cords. And I really believe that the reason why we see so many people that end up famous and end up with a lot of money and end up with a lot of notoriety, sometimes end up in major addiction and things like that, is that they are in an enormous amount of pain.
Yeah.
Physical and spiritual pain because of all of those attachments. I look at like Robin Williams and Heath Ledger and, and in this case, because he didn't mean to die, but he had an addiction problem because he was numbing all of that pain that he was feeling.
Yeah.
I look at actresses like Christina Aguilera, gets weekly Reiki sessions. Why?
Yeah.
Because she's getting all of that stuff cleaned up so that she's not carrying all of that.
Yep.
It's been my belief for a long time that people that have any kind of, look at Barack Obama and pictures of him when his first term started and pictures of him when his second term ended.
Yeah.
The energetic pull on that man is extreme.
Oh, it is. It is. You can really see it in the changes in him physically, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my little energetic spiel on that. Just was a good time to say it, because that's what I really think happens. I think it's avoidable if they understood more about energy, if they had somebody who could do regular clearing work to just, send all of that stuff back and keep them more clear.
Yeah.
We would avoid a lot of addiction issues in famous people.
Yep.
And suicides and just emotional issues and all of the pain that they end up in. Michael Jackson is another one that really is stand out for me. The amount of medication he was on, because of the amount of pain he was in,
Absolutely. I definitely agree. Thank you for that. Okay, next, Princess Diana. So we know that the world mourned when Diana was fatally injured in a car crash in Paris. This happened in the early hours of on the 31st of August, 1997. Diana, Princess of Wales, died in the hospital after being injured in a car wreck in a tunnel in Paris. Her partner, Dodi Fayed, and their driver, Henry Paul, or Henri Paul, I think, were pronounced dead at the scene. Their bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, survived with serious injuries. So the investigation showed that there was a loss of control on the driver's part that caused the accidents. There were lots of theories have come about this. Some say they were fleeing aggressive paparazzi, and other people actually think that it was staged by MI6. What do you think?
Staged by MI6? Why?
Don't know.
Okay, well, let's look into it. Honestly, I've always heard the paparazzi story and just went with it because it seemed plausible. So I guess we take a look now. They were fleeing. They were not fleeing paparazzi.
Okay.
I see a black car, a sleek black car that was running them down. I feel like this was gonna be an attempt on Diana's life, uh, like an assassination. But, they ended up getting in their car and fleeing. I do believe that this, that is why they wrecked and lost control. They were at an extremely high rate of speed. They were trying to get away. It wasn't paparazzi, though. This was somebody who was trying to kill them. And
Okay.
they managed to, not in the way they thought, but they
Mhm.
managed to, and then drove away. This more feels like, like high end. I don't know if that's what people are thinking by, the M6 theory, but this feels to me that's what I'm seeing is a car pulling up alongside of them with a gun out the window and them speeding up like crazy to get away from them and ending up wrecking in this tunnel.
Mhm. Mm. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes
Well,
sense.
except for that, who the hell would want to kill Diana?
I don't know, but there was, then there's also Dodi Fayed, and I mean, there's a lot
Try. True.
there,
Try.
and of course, she was the ex-Princess of Wales, and
Right.
didn't
Right.
like that fact. I mean, there were,
Hmm.
a beloved and controversial person.
Yeah, for most certainly. Wow. That's really sad. That was such a terrible thing.
I know. Maybe I'm looking at some of these going, we need to do full episodes on them, longer episodes on them.
Yeah, and dig deeper.
Yeah, very good. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have Jon Benet Ramsey.
Oh.
Yeah. Jon Benet, of course, was a 6-year-old child beauty pageant winner that was reported missing by her parents in 1996. A ransom note had been left by someone demanding $118,000 for her return. 8 hours later, her body was found in the basement of her home and she had been strangled. The case was never solved. This was in Colorado, and there were huge mistakes made by the police. The
Right.
evidence at the scene had been compromised. The scene was not secure.
Hmm.
Um, a big mess, and so it's always been very difficult to come to any conclusion on this because the evidence was so botched at the beginning.
Hmm.
A lot of the police were convinced that this was a murder from the start and not a kidnapping.
Hmm.
As the note suggested, we know now that her mother, her father, and her brother were all considered suspects. Her mother and father have both since passed away.
Hmm. And both took multiple lie detector tests, really
Mm.
tried to exonerate themselves in every way.
There, a lot of theorists believe it was her brother who killed her, but it is an open case. It's not ever been solved.
And there was a family friend that was staying at the house at the time as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they also, suspected him for a long time and exonerated him. This is one of those cases. And I know, there was some promise that there's no way anyone could have gotten into the home. I don't feel like that's true. I feel like because of the sloppy police work, because of the things I feel like what the public was told about this case and what was actually true are two different things, and maybe in trying to, it's not like the police have to tell us everything and they don't, but in this case particularly, I feel like the information that is true got botched up pretty good
Yeah.
in people trying to cover their own ass. I see somebody coming into her bedroom, an adult, not her brother, an adult, and slipping her out of her bed. I don't feel like it was ever going to be a kidnapping. I do feel like they left a ransom note to give themselves a little bit more space from it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the craziest theory, and I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud, but here's what I'm hearing. This was someone that was hired to end this little girl's beauty queen career.
Wow.
I feel like this was a crazy mother who hired someone to take a child out to not be in competition with her kid anymore.
Wow. Well, we know that these child pageants can get really intense.
Mm-hmm. But again, people that had a ton of money, I feel like this was some kind of murder for hire. And, they did leave the ransom note to get some space from it and to, throw the scent off about where she was. But because it was a mother who ordered this, she also, wanted the body to be found by her mother so that she could bury her. Like there's almost a weird compassionate piece,
Mm-hmm.
that she didn't want her to be a missing person per se, because she wanted her family to be able to bury her. It was like that little bit of maternal instinct came out, but this was about beauty pageants and somebody trying to get her out of their way.
Wow.
You know what else you could have done? Moved.
Yeah.
Moved to a different area where you could have competed with different kids.
Or
Yeah.
just fucked up. It's a child's beauty pageant. Grow up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there is that. But yeah, that's awful. I can't even believe that's what I heard, but well, I can. I mean, what could I say? That's awful. Awful. Yeah.
Wow. That is awful.
A little child died because she was too cute.
Yeah. Oh, that's one of those cases, man. You just never quite get over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
People will do some weird things for their kids.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It is true. Well, and was that really for their kid?
No.
I don't think so.
Not at all. Not at that age. Those little girls didn't know they wanted to be in beauty pageants. They were put in beauty pageants.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with pageants per se, but at that age of any sport, any activity your kid is in, that's 30% them and 70% you.
Right.
Because you're paying for it. You're making it all happen. You are taking all of the time for it. And the kids are going along with it because that's what you said they're going to do.
Right.
It's
absolutely true.
And perhaps they develop a passion for it and want to keep going with whatever it is, and that's fine. But at that age, it's on you.
It is. It most definitely is on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One last case. The Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
He was a rival of Tupac Shakur.
Mm-hmm.
Was killed the year after Tupac was killed.
Mm-hmm.
He was killed in 1997 after leaving the Soul Train Music Awards in LA. A car pulled up alongside his and shot at him, and he was killed. No one was ever named as a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Totally unsolved murder. What do you think?
This one was a rival. This was like a rival. I don't want to say rival gang. That's not quite right, but well, it kind of is. It's like at that time, some of the rappers were gangsters, were
Mhm.
associated. They kind of had a following that was gangy or even culty, to some
Yes.
degree. And this was motivated by somebody who was in competition or was a rival with him. The crazy thing is I don't feel like they were someone who was actually that famous. It was somebody who was trying to climb and wanted him out of their way. And had he not won that night, would he still have been shot? I feel like that is true. It didn't have anything to do with him winning. It had to do with knowing where he would be. And so I don't feel like this is the first time he'd been shot at. I don't feel like this was the first time he'd been involved in violence.
Mhm.
This just happened to be the last time, because they were successful. I actually don't feel like the person who ordered this hit ever got their music career off the ground. I feel like they,
Wow.
all that much. I think they had some notoriety going, not a lot. And I don't feel like it ever really went anywhere, because the problem wasn't that the Notorious B.I.G. was, stealing the limelight from them. The problem was they weren't that great.
Mm.
So I feel like kind of they did end up going in oh, no, they didn't. They died. Okay.
Oh.
They died. Whoever this person was didn't live a whole lot longer after this. And they also died in some kind of a violent crime. Yeah.
Wow. Really sad. Another
6 to 8 months later. They didn't live a whole lot longer after that.
Wow. Another beloved rap artist that,
Yeah.
didn't get to have a long life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He had some stuff though. Not that he deserved to get gunned down. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like he had some pretty good skeletons in his closet, and he had some violent stuff going on around him that he was involved in. This it doesn't make it right, but he did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sad. That really between Tupac and his death, that really rocked the rap world for a while.
It did. It still does. It still
Yeah.
does. Their deaths still have a huge impact on people. I know that that's the
This is
case.
true. Well, and it's still happening. I mean, there's
Right.
still every couple of years or less, you hear about a rapper being gunned down somewhere.
Mhm.
There's still a culture of that now.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Absolutely. Well, that's Celebrity Death Roulette. Thank you for the cold reads, Katie.
You
Really,
bet.
really fun to hear your snap reads on all of these different cases, and gives us
Thank
a
you.
great basic idea of what happened. And it also gives us some great ideas about cases we should probably delve into a little more deeply.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. Well, thanks for some great cases.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been listening to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on all major podcast platforms. And you can find us on Facebook at True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. And if you really love what we're doing, you can find us over on Patreon. And Patreon is a great way to pick up some extra content here and there. We throw up a lot of extra shows over there that if you become
Hmm.
a patron, you can see that content, and that's
Yeah.
exclusive only to those on Patreon. So
Hmm.
check all of that out, and we'll be back soon with another episode of True Crime Paranormal. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.